Cleveland Browns have won 4 out of their last
Have
5
all of
games.
my bobbleheads are officially throwback. This one's for you.
This is a big one for me. You know?
I don't know what kind of logic we have here, but this is season 5 of the I Still Believe in Cleveland podcast. We bought some new gear. Maybe that's the equation to say, hey, this is season 5. Get some new tech. We're going to start off with a new season. We got a new head coach in Cleveland, Kevin Stefanski, new head coach, many more pieces to come, parts. But the part that we will be wondering if he will be on the field to start off the next season, Odell Beckham Jr., he has had his name in the news, his surgery, going to the LSU game. But the question that I'll ask you guys, Eric, we'll start with you first. Kicking off season 5 is there any reason not to think that Odell Beckham Jr. will be a starter at wide receiver for the Browns in game 1 of next year?
Well, you can kick it off to me, but I will not fair catch. That being said, yeah, I mean Odell Beckham Jr. Odell Beckham Jr. will be healthy. At least that's what I've been told after his core muscle surgery. I guess that's what they're calling it now after the sports hernia. So, yeah, I expect him to be on the field along with Jarvis Landry and a number 3 wide receiver. I could not tell you who that number 3 will be because we had a slew of those last year and they did not really work out. So I'm hoping that whoever the GM is can accompany him. Going back to the Odell thing, though, I really don't expect a trade at this point. He's still pretty young. He's had his off-field, I guess you want to call them issues, although the charges were dropped. So, or the he wasn't going to press charges, the cop. Anyways, yeah, we could trade him. We would get less than full value. I don't see the logic in that. I know the analytics is always, rooting for draft picks and, building towards the future and not necessarily investing in your veterans that are already on the team as well as instead of, guys that you could see down the road get cheaper contracts, be well under the cap. Browns are already under the cap. As it is, Baker's not under contract on a second contract. Myles Garrett's on a second contract, so I don't really see the value in letting him go this year. So he's a talented player. We're gonna have a new system that should help him out. That should help Jarvis Landry out. That should help Baker Mayfield out. Hopefully, we either get David Njoku on track or we sign an Austin Hooper or there's been rumors of Kyle Rudolph getting let go because his salary is too high. Obviously, Stefanski has a relationship there. All these pieces and parts should really help out Odell. Obviously, he probably won't be getting as many catches as he's hoping for on a day-to-day or, week-by-week basis. But if he can get those targets, those key ones, clutch in situations late in the game, for the touchdowns or game-ending drives, that should be enough for him and the Browns to actually enjoy his role on the team, get those wins, and God forbid actually make the playoffs once in close to 20 years. I lost track. So, I expect Odell on the field with wearing a Browns helmet and wearing a new Browns jersey, ditching those ones we've had since 2015. And, I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, there's been a lot of change, a lot of coaching changes. One of those changes, Adam Henry, the former wide receivers coach, is leaving to join the Cowboys. Does that worry you at all, Drew? He has a connection. Henry had a connection with Jarvis, with Odell, going back to LSU. But does that worry you to see the wide receiver coach leaving and all the change in the organization?
Well, I need to start off by hitting with the five-time WCW champion for season 5. I just had that in my head. I had to get it out here for the first time. So we got to start off strong. Got to start off strong with that. To a certain extent, when that news broke, I actually was a little concerned about it, but I don't think it's a huge deal. That's not the reason why he being Odell wanted to come to the Browns. And make no mistake, this is one of the destinations he wanted because he got to play with his best friend, who's still on the team, they're still the two starting wide receivers, and he got to play with a good young quarterback in what was supposed to be a pass-friendly offense. And I think all of those things are still true. You won't see as much volume from the passing game. You just won't. It's not predicated on 3 wide, 11 personnel spread. Which I think, was a decent scheme for the personnel they had. They just had a buffoon trying to call it. When you switch to this Stefanski scheme, no, it wasn't Todd Monken. Thank you very much. Todd Monken is the offensive coordinator at Georgia, and they're going to do just fine. Anyway, I digress. With this new scheme, it's going to be my favorite running scheme. I love this scheme, how it makes everybody on the defense play sound gap control, gap fundamental defense. And if one guy misses his assignment, gets off the ball late, there's your hole. And that's 4 or 5 yards. And if the running back makes somebody miss or a linebacker takes a bad angle, that's 30. And they just keep hitting them with that. It's these wide zones, outside zone runs that the running back can take to the outside for a cheap 4 or 5 yards. They can cut it back off tackle, sort of standard student body left, student body right, off tackle play, almost like power football. And then when the defense gets sick and tired of you beating them outside, they overcommit and you gash them with a cutback lane. And it's all running back vision. There's no assigned hole. I love this offense. It's what Kyle Shanahan ran when we turned Isaiah Crowell into a star, when we turned Terrence West into a viable running back. This is the offense that put Raheem Mostert in conversation for one of the best playoff rushing games ever. This is a guy who's been cut by 6 teams. You put Nick Chubb behind this type of scheme, and it's going to be great. And so you're going to get people that are going to play the run first, and you're going to have people running wide open. The catch to that is that, by definition, you don't throw the ball 50 times a game. So as a wide receiver, you have to make the most of those opportunities. And, I think Odell Beckham can, and I think he will. I think he's talented enough to do so. Is he happy here to want to stay for the next 5-6 years, sign another contract? I don't know. I think winning cures all of these ills. And I think if he and Jarvis can get, their 5 or 6 targets, 8 targets potentially a game, I think between the two of them, there's probably 15 targets a game to go around. If they can make that work with some of the running back screens and everything else they do, I think they'll be very happy. I think the Browns will be very successful. The Vikings had the 6th best rushing offense in the league. This is behind a team without superstar offensive linemen, I would say. They were 12th in scoring offense. 12th in total offense, 8th in scoring offense. And keep in mind, this is an offense with Kirk Cousins as your quarterback. I think you come here with Baker Mayfield. They have good receivers there, Stephon Diggs and Adam Thielen, but those guys weren't healthy for much of the season. So you put Jarvis and Odell with this team, with this offense in this scheme, and I think this offense can be very good. And I don't think you'll end up missing out on. I don't think it will matter necessarily that the receivers coach wasn't their coach at LSU.
Yeah, like the pickup of Bill Callahan, former Raiders, former Nebraska coach. He's going to be teaching the offensive line some of those zone blocking schemes. Nice pickup there. A lot of experience bringing on to the coaching staff like that. But as you mentioned, it's going to be the center of that productivity. The center of that success is going to be the quarterback position in Baker Mayfield. Baker had a sophomore slump. He's going to be going into this 3rd season with the Browns, a freshman season that was unbelievable, and you thought he was headed to the Super Bowl this past year. The 3rd season, what can we expect? We're seeing his counterpart, who's I think just a year ahead of him, Patrick Mahomes, in the Super Bowl this year. He is going to be everyone's darling for the next 2 weeks and possibly for the next couple of years. especially depending on what he does in the Super Bowl this year. But I think Baker is still competing against Mahomes. Eric, what do you think? Do you think Baker can ever catch up with Mahomes, or is he going to wither under that pressure?
If you say ever, maybe. If you just said it, will he catch up with him? I don't see it right now.
Okay.
I think Patrick Mahomes is set up for much more success, at least in the short term, as opposed to Baker Mayfield. They have an established coaching staff. Andy Reid is one of the best coaches of all time. All he does is win. He may not win Super Bowls, but he's going to get you 10, 11, 12 wins a season, get you deep into the playoffs, gives you that experience. You got Eric sleeping with the Bieniemy on offense. That's really helping Patrick Mahomes grow. And, he's got veterans who have been there. I mean, he's got Tyreek Hill, he's got Travis Kelce, two great weapons, and he's got an offensive line of a lot of former Browns, but nonetheless, I mean, they're all been 5, 6, 7 years in the league. They're an established team right now that, that's really used to winning and playing these type of games in January and now finally February. The Honey Badger was one heck of a pickup they had. He's really galvanized that defense with Steve Spagnuolo. So, the Browns have a ways to go before they get that echelon. They have to, unfortunately, it seems like NFL teams, the Niners are the
exception
to the rule. There you go. Thank you. Where they just blow by, building this, and they just go from 4-12 to Super Bowl. But it seems like you got to go 9-7. Hit that first round, then maybe then the next season win a game, then you get your Super Bowl run. And the Browns, they have 6 and 7 wins the last 2 seasons. So definitely don't feel good in the near term. I'm hoping Kevin Stefanski can, take this team and put them up there with the Chiefs. He's got to start with a lot of good hires. I do like the Callahan hire. General George S. Payton. I'm hoping he can be a good, good general manager that can really help this team. And
I'm hoping we get him, man. That's no guarantee.
Yeah. I guess I'm assuming that we get him. Whoever the general manager is, I just wanted to say that name. Whoever the general manager is, they're going to have a really, really key role this April. They have the 10th pick of every round, and they have a couple additional picks. What are they going to do? Are they going to trade back, trade up, settle for offensive linemen? They got a lot of ways they can go, and I'm hoping they make some wise decisions in free agency and the draft.
There's no settling for offensive linemen, man. Pick all of them. This is an excellent draft for offensive line.
There are a lot of good ones. So, right now I don't feel confident that we can get to that level, but that's also 20, 30 years of poor football that I'm, protruding to you guys and saying I've seen a lot of bad things, so I don't have confidence. But I hope they prove me wrong. We've seen tremendous effort and tremendous play by Baker Mayfield. I know it's in there. I know Stefanski can get it out of him, and I just hope the rest of the team can join him and they get the wins, and maybe he will get to multiple Super Bowls, and maybe he will beat Patrick Mahomes in the AFC Championship game from years to come. But, right now I don't see it.
Drew, what do if we zoom in a little bit here and just look at one aspect of this Mahomes versus Baker possibility for the future, maybe some AFC conference championship games against these two, do you think Baker has the leg up based on some of the big games that he played in as the quarterback at Oklahoma? I don't know if Mahomes, he's played some track meets against the Patriots, but this is going to be Mahomes' Ben Roethlisberger moment of you're on the largest stage in the world as far as football goes, and let's see if you can put up. Do you think Mahomes is going to shine under that pressure?
Yes. I think Patrick Mahomes is really good. I think Baker's not going to wilt. When that moment comes, not if, when that moment comes. I think the Browns finally have an adult running the show. I think they have and they have people pulling in the same direction, trying to accomplish the same goals. This is all predicated on them hiring George Patton. I would very much like that to come to fruition. He was at the facility from 9 a.m. Till after 3:30 p.m. today discussing the job. That is a really long interview, by the way. So, assuming all that works out, I think they have finally the organization around Baker Mayfield to where, we might be able to get this thing rolling. So, I'm not worried about Baker Mayfield's talent. I'm not worried about his ability to play in a big game. He was decimating that excellent Georgia team up until they sort of cheap shot at him, and Lincoln Riley went sort of conservative in that playoff game. So, I'm not worried at all about Baker Mayfield. I think, looking into my crystal ball, I see these guys ending up as sort of like a Breeze Rodgers type of a scenario. Hopefully, there's more Super Bowls in there, but I would certainly settle for one at this point. Baker Mayfield, obviously, the more Drew Brees type, the more I think accurate type of a player, whereas Patrick Mahomes is the more freelance, pure talent, type of arm talent that is, otherworldly. So, I think Patrick Mahomes is the guy everybody would rather have, and there's a good reason for that. He's in a better situation. He's had the same head coach his whole time, the same system the whole time. He certainly has the better start to their careers throughout the first 2 or 3 years, their first 2 years starting. But I think the Browns can challenge them. I think they can become an adequate rival of that team, and I am here for that, right? I am here for the end of the Roethlisberger, Peyton Manning, Tom Brady AFC. I am ready for that to be a thing of the past. I'm ready for it to be Lamar Jackson against Baker Mayfield. The winner of that gets Patrick Mahomes, and then potentially, you throw in some other like surprise teams in there that might pop up every now and again. But that's what I'm ready for, and I think that there's some reason to expect that. I think those are some of the best young quarterbacks currently going, and this is all predicated on the Bengals sort of ruining Joe Burrow, but I am confident in their ability to do so.
Yeah, you bring that up. Baker can look forward and try and catch up with some of the guys that are ahead of him now, but Burrow coming in, Tua coming in, potentially to the Dolphins. We'll see where he lands. There's going to be a young crop of quarterbacks who are going to be battling for that AFC title. Baker,
it's about time.
Big
man.
year.
Yeah. We've spent 20 years. It's been 20 years of one of those three or an illegitimate franchise. It's been one time this century that a legitimate franchise has represented the AFC in the Super Bowl that wasn't led by one of those three quarterbacks. One. This is finally the second one.
Well, the Browns are certainly headed up, or at least we're hoping so. The team that we don't know exactly where they are going, and one player, we don't know where he'll end up at the end of the season. Kevin Love, it's been up and down. We don't know if Kevin is the ultimate teammate, being friendly with everyone on the team, or if he, is having some sort of battle with John Beilein, having some sort of issue with the coach. That has gone back and forth, but the question is, the Cavs are on a certain trajectory. I can't believe, looking at the standings, seeing the Cavs and the Golden State Warriors at the near the bottom. I think there's a couple teams that might be competing there too, but at the very bottom, Golden State and the Cleveland Cavaliers. I can't believe that. Is that pretty much where we're headed? Are we trying to compete for that number one pick? Eric, let's go to you first here. Do you think, Kevin Love, it sort of seems like he might stick around for the rest of the year?
Well, yeah, the trade deadline is February 5th, so we are drawing near that deadline. And seems like the big obstacle right now is obviously his large contract and who wants to take that on. He is still a fantastic player. I think I mentioned before, the rumors of, some teams out west, Portland, kind of going back home. not a lot of room to for him to fit in, especially with that large cap number. So yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if he's with the Cavs again after the deadline, and we'll cross that bridge afterwards. But ideally, I would like for him to be traded to a contender that needs him. That is not a team that I despise, like the Celtics or the Lakers. Don't have to worry about don't have to worry about the Warriors this year. So I think if we can get a favorable return, I mean, asking for like one of the top 5 draft picks or what would become a top 5 draft picks, that's not going to happen. But if we can get something favorable, I don't know what that would be. I don't think a second round's even worth much anymore. There's a Draymond Green and there's Danny Green. I can't name too many other good second round picks that have happened in the last couple of years. Hopefully maybe we can get a potential lottery pick down the road in a year or two from one of these teams. But all things considered, I expect Kevin Love likely to be on the team. You know, you heard that press conference where he was saying he's 13 instead of 30, acting like he's 13 instead of he's 31. He's firing the ball with all of his might at Colin Sexton. I mean, it's not good right now. And the Cavs have they're tied for third worst record in the league. Where I see them being headed is another top 5 pick. I mean, you have Golden State and the Knicks and the Hawks, I believe, are only teams that are battling for that right now. Hopefully the ping pong balls will fall their way this year and not like last year. Sorry. They would potentially get another top-notch player to add to this young lineup. You also have to take a look at 2 of the key injuries. Obviously, I'll let Drew go in about his guy missing the whole year, but also the loss of Kevin Porter Jr. for multiple weeks, who was coming on pretty strong. So, I have confidence that hopefully next year they can get it right. But for now, this is another sit out this season, and hopefully the lottery balls come your way and you get a good guy next year.
Yeah, Drew. Are you missing the guy that you've been looking forward to on this team? Are you missing Ante Zizic?
Well done, man. I was ready to have a funeral over here. Yes, the team is missing this fine specimen right over here. At some point, this man will be healthy and will be ready to roll with this Cavs team. One of the biggest things they're missing is 3-point shooting, and he can provide that in spades. He can, put the ball into the basket from a very long way away, and they really need a floor spacer for some of the athletic guards that they have. Sexland and Kevin Porter Jr., those guys need somebody that can space the floor. Kevin Love's actually pretty good at that for what it's worth when he feels like playing, but there's not a whole lot you can do when he's really your only option at this point for a reliable, consistent 3-point shooter. So when they get Zizic and Windler back, it'll be hopefully a step forward. But with that said, the Cavs are 12-32. They are 2 games behind the Hawks at 10-34, and 2.5 behind the last place Golden State Warriors. The Warriors in dead last place. All of their just die-hard fans that used to jam-pack Oracle Arena, that place you can hear a pin drop in. All those guys are going back, and they're now all Lakers fans, just like everyone told you that they would be. So the thing that we're watching at this point, obviously the Hawks in the Eastern Conference, the Hawks, I don't know if they can catch them. They can. There's a lot of basketball to be played. But they're also trying to catch the Knicks. Now, they are dead tied with the Knicks at 12-32, and the Knicks are playing some really atrocious basketball lately. So need to try to stay in that magic top 3. If you're in the top 3, you have the same odds at that number 1 overall pick. So that's what I'm watching the rest of the year. And I'm going to be paying a lot of attention to those Eastern Conference games against the Hawks and against the Knicks. If we can pull out a couple clutch losses there, I think we can give ourselves the best chance at landing a real difference maker. They're 1 true superstar away from being a contender. I think they need a big man beyond what they have now. But I think you can get that. I think you can attract a big man to play with some athletic guards and with one superstar small forward wing player. So they're not as far away as they look at times. But I'd sure like to be able to add those two pieces and then see where 2020 takes us with all this young talent.
After all this, wouldn't it be something if they just trade away Dylan Windler?
I have nightmares of it. I've honestly woken up thinking that I might never get to see him take the floor in a Cleveland Cavaliers jersey. So, yes, it'd be terrible.
I remember in I think it was season 3 of this podcast when Sam Decker was on the team.
Yes,
did the big intro to Sam Decker. I was excited to see him.
You had me excited about the Sam Decker era for the Cleveland Cavaliers.
High hopes. It was like, oh, he played so well in college at Wisconsin. Yep. He was a primetime player. He didn't last very long at all. He's a lost memory for these Cleveland Cavaliers, but hopefully not the same with Dylan Windler. Thank you guys for joining. We will do our Super Bowl picks. Drew is going to dump a bucket of money on all of the Believeland fans out there. We will do our Super Bowl picks next week. Eric, Drew, thank you for joining on season 5. We'll hopefully not have as much time between episodes as we did with this last one. And we'll talk to you guys real soon.
Sounds good.
Take care.